with South Carolina Republican Congressman Trey Gowdy, who sits on the Judiciary and Intelligence Committees and chairs the Oversight and Government Reform Committee. Congressman, thanks for being here.
Yes, sir.
Your thoughts of this news?
It was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen after the election. I did not think it would happen before all the votes had been counted. But he's been a proverbial dead man walking for several months now, Brett.
Yeah, you know, Chuck Schumer had a real problem with the acting attorney general. Take a listen.
Our paramount view is that any attorney general, whether this one or another one, should not be able to interfere with the Mueller investigation in any way. They should not be able to end it. They should not be able to limit it. They should not be able to interfere with Mueller going forward and doing what he thinks is the right thing. And that will help guide us as we go through this process.
So their concern is that Matt Whitaker is going to do that. Is that your concern?
No, Brett. Every prosecutor has jurisdictional boundaries. I don't know a single prosecutor that does not. And Mueller's jurisdictional boundaries were set by Rod Rosenstein in the memo that you have seen, and they were altered, amended in the memo that we have not seen. But there's never been a prosecutor that just had unfettered power to go investigate whatever the heck he or she wanted to do. If you're a state prosecutor, you can't investigate federal crimes. If you're in New York, you can't investigate things in Idaho. So the notion that we're going to create a special counsel that has no boss, no jurisdictional strictures at all, is just typical Chuck Schumer, and I think it's why so few people take him seriously.
Well, what about the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, and his role here? One would have assumed that the deputy, that's why he's a deputy, if the Attorney General is not there, would step in as acting.
You would. These are interesting times that we're in. Rod Rosenstein, I was ready to question him. I had 37 pages worth of questions for him, Brett, a couple of weeks ago. Of course, he is alleged to have wanted to invoke the 25th Amendment and question the president's fitness for office. So I'm not sure that would have been the right pick, but he is overseeing the Mueller probe right now. I don't think anything's going to happen to Rod until after Mueller finishes his investigation, and then what happens after that will be between the president and Rod.
Rosenstein had a meeting today at the White House, scheduled to be there tomorrow. Do you have any sense when Mueller moves forward with anything? Do you have any timeline?
I don't, and I'd be really disappointed if anyone did. I mean, Mueller, for whatever other shortcomings people perceive that he has, I think he's tried to do a pretty good job of keeping his business private. I have not seen a single piece of evidence that suggests collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. I know Schiff has. I know some journalists claim they have. But I've seen nothing, and no one's interviewed more witnesses than I have. So I think Mueller is going to issue an exhaustive report on what Russia did, which should unify America, and then he's going to disappoint CNN and all my Democrat friends by saying there's no evidence of collusion. That's what I think he's going to do, and I think it'll happen before the end of the year, but I don't know that.
Mr. Chairman, do you think that acting Attorney General Whitaker could expand the investigation the other way into looking at the FBI, the early parts of the investigation from inside the administration?
Well, he could. You know, Chairman Goodlatte and I wrote a long time ago, we wrote Attorney General Sessions and said we think, reluctantly, but we think there ought to be a second special counsel. And I say that as somebody who used to work for the Department of Justice and wants to see that institution restored to its greatness. But I think there ought to be a second special counsel to look at the origins of the Russia probe and the way the FBI conducted itself. I mean, Chairman Goodlatte and I have been investigating to the extent we can without a grand jury and without compulsory process. We've been looking at what we can, and I am deeply troubled by what the department and the Bureau did. And I think another special counsel is warranted, and I thought that months ago.
Is it more likely that that happens with the acting Attorney General Whitaker than not?
Well, my chances were 0 with Sessions because he said no. So not to quote the movie Dumb and Dumber, but I guess it's 1 in a million. I guess it's better than it was with Sessions.
So you're saying you got a chance. All right, I've got 15 seconds here. Your reaction to losing the House?
Not surprised. Historical headwinds, retirements. It's really tough to win in off years. Picked up seats in the Senate. I'm sorry for some of my friends that aren't coming back. Mia Love and Stevie Russell and others. But it's an unusual line of work that we have chosen, and the jury has spoken, and the jury is always right.
And what about the president saying, you know, if you didn't stand with me, too bad, today at the news conference?
Well, we lost a seat in South Carolina. Katie Arrington stood with the president, much more so than Mark Sanford, and regrettably, she did not win. So I think he had tremendous success in the Senate seats that he involved himself with. The House is just a different entity, and it's tough to win in off years. The historical headwinds, the money that poured in, the retirements. I think Kevin and Paul knew that we were in trouble, even though they fought like the Dickens to prevent it. I think it was inevitable. I didn't see us picking up seats in the Senate, so that was a plus.
Mr. Chairman, we appreciate your time, as always.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Sessions is out. Top Senate Democrats demanding that the new acting AG, a gentleman by the name of Matthew Whitaker, recuse himself from the Russia matter. Don't know if that's going to happen. Louisiana Senator John Kennedy's on the Judiciary Committee by telephone. Sir, good morning, Senator. Thank you for your time. Want to get your reaction for the news of yesterday. What next?
What next in terms of midterms, or what next in terms of justice?
Jeff Sessions, sir.
Jeff Sessions. Well, number one, I'm a big fan of former General Sessions. I thought he did a good job. Number two, the president has the right to surround himself with advisors of his choice. Jeff knew that going in. Number three, I don't think our new acting attorney general needs to recuse himself. Number four, I don't think that Mueller ought to be fired, but I do think he ought to hurry up. I mean, it's been long enough. If he hasn't figured out what went on, if anything, in the election in 2016 by now, my guess is he's not going to figure it out. And he needs to report to the American people, and let's get this behind us.
Well, I think a lot of folks are trying to figure out this morning, Senator Kennedy, and thanks again for coming on, what this means for the Mueller probe and how this changes things now having Jeff Sessions out.
Well, I don't know how it changes things. I just hope, I can tell you what I hope changes. I hope that that Mr. Mueller decides to wrap this thing up. I know he's been working hard, but he needs to saddle up and ride harder, and let's get this behind us. I don't know, what's it been, 2 years? If he hadn't figured it out by now, he's not going to figure it out.
Do you know
I think we all know what he's going to conclude.
What
the
is
Russians tried to interfere in the election like they've been doing for, I don't know, 50 years. And number two, did they influence the result in the election? No. Now, if he finds out that somebody broke the law, then he needs to indict them and prosecute them, and let's have some justice. But whatever he does, he needs to wrap it up.
Do you know Whitaker, sir?
I do not. Have not met him. I've heard good things about him. I thought it was a little disingenuous of our Democratic friends to start pounding on him before he even has a chance to find the men's room. But that's just the way politics is right now. I was hoping they had learned something from the election, but we'll see.
Senator, how are things going a couple of days out? There's so much news on all of our plates this morning. We're still reeling from this tragic shooting in California overnight. Midterm elections were just a couple of days ago.
Yes.
What is the talk in Washington? What are people thinking here now as we wake up each morning now to a split Congress?
Well, Sandra, I can just give you my perspective. A couple of points. Number one, we all heard about the blue wave. I think it's pretty clear that the blue wave was a blue dribble. We pretty much fought to a draw. Number two, I think President Trump and the Kavanaugh hearings had a huge impact on the election, at least on the Republican side. Number three, we need to do something about the cost of health insurance. We among ourselves as Republicans tried. We got no Democratic support. I hope now the Democrats will come aboard and let's figure something out, because this is not meant to impugn anybody. But Obamacare didn't work. I wish it had worked. It didn't work. We got to try something new.
All right.
Senator,
Number
thank you
four.
Oh, sorry. My apologies.
I love Willie Nelson and Taylor Swift. I have their music on my phone, but they must have been smoking some of Willie's dope when they decided to get involved in politics. I think Hollywood needs to stay out of politics. I think the American people are smart enough to figure it out for themselves.
Well,
number five, I hope that our Democratic friends in the House will work with us.
Senator Kennedy,
and not just use their majority to harass the administration. I hope they'll honestly work with us on the Senate side to try to solve some of the problems that keep mom and dads up at night.
it's a busy morning and a busy week.
And it would not be an interview without you dropping another classic line. So we appreciate
Senator,
that. Thank you,
you.
Senator. We'll see you in person real soon. Thanks.
I don't know what I said wrong, but I deny
nothing
everything.
wrong.
Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.